Let's speak to our political editor, Vuyo Mvoko. Now he's at the West Park Cemetery where Bizos will be laid to rest. How's it going to play out there, Vuyo?
Hi, Jane. We are still at the church as proceedings here haven't begun yet. Of course, after the two services, family as well as the official service here, then everyone will move to the cemetery. For now, though, I'd like us to reflect a little bit on the legal eagle that our colleague was talking about with her guest, who, because I mean, from legal eagles, South Africa's younger, certainly younger than George Bizos eagles, reflecting on their interactions with the late George Bizos. Let me isolate one and talk here about Advocate Thembeka Ngcukaitobi, who is one of South Africa's foremost legal eagles at the moment. He reflected on an episode where he got an opportunity to work with the late George Bizos, and this was on the Marikana case. And he was talking about just how deeply he cared about the families of the people who were killed during that very unfortunate episode. But not only that, but how George Bizos was able to galvanize everyone around him, and how he, during that period, actually got to reflect on what had become of a country that he had fought so hard to make better through representing many, in fact, generations of our political leaders. Here's Advocate Thembeka Ngcukaitobi talking about how Advocate Bizos felt about the state of policing and the kind of culture that bred the kind of people who shot at people during the Marikana massacre.
My last case with George was as his junior in the Marikana Commission of Inquiry. He was very sad about Marikana. He was very sad about the brutality of the behavior of the police. And I think he was sadder because these were post-apartheid police. That brought him a lot of sadness.
Now, sadness, the word Thembeka Ngcukaitobi uses. But if you go back to George Bizos' career and history, you'll find that he was actually a very consistent person. It wasn't just about, the attitude he had or the things he cared deeply about didn't start with Marikana. Cast your mind back as the former Deputy Chief Justice Dikgang Moseneke told me, back in the 80s, George Bizos got an opportunity. In fact, he asked for it. The UDF at the time, because of differences they had with the late Mamuwini Madikizela Mandela, issued a directive that she should not be touched because they differed with her with regard to what she had done at the time, the allegations that were leveled against her around the Stompi Sepei saga and the Mandela Football Club. And because George Bizos was such a consistent and caring lawyer, a consummate professional who felt that whatever differences people may have had with the late Winnie Madikizela Mandela, she, like every other citizen, has a right to be represented by a lawyer in a court of law. That's what she is entitled to. So defied the entire political leadership at the time, which could have led to his own isolation. But he said he reached out actually to Winnie Madikizela Mandela. And here's the Deputy Chief Justice Dikgang Moseneke reflecting on that episode and how he and George Bizos had to go against the tide, as it were, and go and represent Winnie Madikizela Mandela. Take a listen.
We had to put on whatever and get into the mud and make sure that we come to her support. She wasn't popular with the regime, and and somehow she'd run into trouble with the UDF elite and or leadership at the time.
George Bizos, the legal eagle that represented generations of South African politicians over a number of decades. Some of them will, of course, be reflecting on his life and times here today before he is laid to rest a little later on, Jane.